Welcome back to API Kitchen, where we cook up secure APIs. I'm confident stably your chef de cuisine in this unique kitchen. Today, we're diving into a special edition, the OWASP ASVS gastronomy. Our menu is rich with a variety of dishes, each representing a chapter from the OWASP ASVS. This framework is our Bible, the Michelin star of web app security. It's a feast of guidelines designed to fortify your API against cyber threats. From the appetizer of architecture and threat modeling to the dessert of configuration, we ensure every course is prepared to perfection. We leave no stone unturned, from authentication to data protection, and we follow the recipe to ensure every layer is as secure as it is savory. Let's zoom in on the file upload section, shall we? Here in the API Kitchen, we size up our files like we do our steaks, ensuring they are not too hefty to handle. Our chefs are trained to enforce limits, keeping the uploads lean and mean. Over at the log content corner, our diligent record keepers log every event with precision. No detail is too small, from minor warnings to critical errors, ensuring our culinary code complies with the strictest of privacy laws. And in our credential recovery area, we craft a process as smooth as silk, allowing users to reclaim their access with ease, all while aligning with the NIST 800-63 framework for that extra layer of compliance confidence. Our dishes are served in 3 tiers of security rigor. Level 1 for the everyday blog, Level 2 for the bustling online shops, and Level 3 for the applications that demand military-grade security, like a bank app. Each ingredient from our ASVS pantry ensures our digital dishes can withstand the heat of cyber attacks. And so we blend authentication with session management, stir in some access controls, and sprinkle encryption to taste. Our guests will be joining us today at the virtual kitchen. Let's go hear what they have to say about fixing security issues using this framework. Today on the API Kitchen, we have Tanya Janca, who is the head of community at Semgrep. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you for having me in the API Kitchen.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. So I'll go straight into the questions. My first question to you is, I made a recent LinkedIn post and it sparked quite an interesting question about the OWASP ASVS. The question highlighted that while ASVS is comprehensive, its breadth can be overwhelming for developers. They often need guidance to implement this particular standard effectively. Could you share some concise tips or strategies for developers to navigate and effectively use the OWASP ASVS?
Absolutely. So the first thing is there's 3 levels to ASVS, level 1, 2, and 3. Definitely start at level 1. I've seen it where companies are like, we want to be perfect. We'll just start at level 3. And then it's totally and completely overwhelming. So start at level 1. And generally what I do is I go through by section and I look at the overview of each section, and then I decide which sections are most important to me. And then I prioritize them. And so then I'll do one section, let's say in 1 month. And then I look at the next section the next month. Or I'll look at 1 or 2 or 3 apps that are super high priority, like mission critical, and do ASVS level 1 on just those 2 or 3, and then move on to other apps. I find that if you try to tackle the entire thing all at once, like you said, it's just overwhelming. I also find, quite frankly, that it's really well used as a sort of like a strategy for pen testing. So I know that it's supposed to be a list of things that you can do to assure your security. Well, you can test to it. So a lot of pen testers use it as like a map of things to go through. So if you flip it sort of on its side, so yes, we're going to pen test to this, but what guidance can we give for each one of these things? I do think, though, it's really important to draw out the most important parts for your org. And whenever possible, if there's any of them that you can add to like your stack analysis tool, or add to your software composition analysis tool, or add to some sort of checklist somewhere, so you can automate away as many of the checks as possible. and then just do only the manual checks you absolutely must. Because like I said, it's exhaustive. I think it's around 79 pages, and it's essentially a giant spreadsheet. So it's a lot to handle. So whatever you can do to break it down into more bite-sized pieces, and whatever you can do to automate away, your life will be better.
I absolutely love those answers. Start small, and then increment. Starting small means that you get to tackle the fruit on the ground first before, even the low hanging fruit, and then you reach out to the tree right high up. And then, of course, you get to focus on the most important and the most mission critical applications. Very, very, very useful tips there. But my next question, Tanya, is what is one underutilized API security best practice that you consider the salt of the earth? A basic yet potent aspect that may greatly improve an organization's security posture.
So I would say the most important thing to do for your APIs is to put them behind an API gateway. So an API gateway, first of all, does authentication. So who are you? Authorization, should you be here? It can do input validation. It can do basically like any sort of rate limiting. So what this does is it helps you protect against bots, against brute force attacks, against scripts that are on the internet that are out there to hurt you. And so I don't put any APIs on the internet unless it specifically it's behind a gateway. So that's I wouldn't say that it's a secret or a surprise type of answer. But I would say that's the first thing that I would do. The other very, very important thing that I think that people forget sometimes, or that I see a mistake with a lot, and if you see the OWASP API security top 10 from last year, you'll see it's authorization past the first level. So you'll be authorized to call the API, but maybe you're not authorized to call that function, or you're not authorized to see that specific record, or you are authorized to see that record, but not every single thing in the record. And so breaking down that authorization to multiple levels, like making sure that you're checking every single time you're denying by default. This is a mistake I see a lot. And so planning out what your authorization plan is, making sure you deny by default every time, making sure this is tested extremely thoroughly for every single different type of user that you have. So if you have an administrative user, and then let's say you have a super user, and then you have a regular user, and then you have a guest user logging in as each one of those, and testing every single function and every single part of it to make sure you cannot see what you should not see every single time. That's a thing I see a mistake in often. So adding the gateway and making sure your authentication or your authorization is correct through and through. I would say those two are really helpful.
Thank you so much for joining us today at the Virtual Kitchen. Remember, the key to a great API kitchen dish is the balance of flavors, and OWASP ASVS gives us the palette to create a masterpiece secure API. And that's how you secure an API in our kitchen. In coming episodes, we'll be discussing even more API security issues and walking you through how to solve them. Remember to subscribe to CCNet TV and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new episodes of API Kitchen showing each Thursday. Until then, keep your kitchen clean, your code cleaner, and your APIs secure.